Today we are at yet another great crag of the Grazer Bergland. It's called Weiße Wand, white wall, if we would translate it directly into English, in the Bärenschutzklamm. It's a really wild place, lots of forest, lots of little rivers coming down, waterfalls and stuff like that. It's a really cool place, really wild, lots of nature here. And this crag is also really nice. It features, as I think, amazing limestone, slightly overhanging, quite high, long roots, 35 meters and stuff like that. Super endurancey, pockets, little slots, little holes, little edges and stuff like that. So it's kind of a crag to get into a really good flow, And there is this super classic, it's called Sun City, around 8A or something, 7C plus 8A maybe, and had in mind for a long time to try this one on site, and now I've warmed up a little bit on a couple of easier routes, also long, also good, and I think I've got enough flow now to try it. So yeah, let's see how it goes. And as usual with these climbing shots, I would like to jump into voiceover mode here real quickly to give a little bit of a commentary to these on-site attempts of this session here at the white wall at the Weiße Wand. First of all, we're gonna see my on-site attempt of Sun City 7C plus 8A, super endurancey route, very long. We're talking about 35 to 40 meters here, very nice moves. And after that, we're gonna see Torsten's on-site attempt on another 7A plus that was kind of successful as well, I have to say. So I hope you enjoy. I will try to run my mouth here a little bit in the background about the topic of on-siting in general, because I think it's quite interesting. Now, first of all, what does it actually mean to on-site a route? Because I get this question a lot. What does it mean to flash? What does it mean to on-site? What does it mean to red point? Now, when we're talking about on-siting, then that means that we don't know anything about the route basically, and we simply try to climb the route in lead mode from the bottom to the top, clipping the quick draws and clipping the anchor without falling. That's simply it. But we don't know anything. We don't know how the crux works, we don't know how big the holes are, we don't know how the clipping positions are. We haven't even asked another climber who might be around there, who might already have done the route, how it works. Okay, we also did not climb a neighboring route and rappelled down from this route and checked out every single hold on the way down of the route that we wanted to on-site. No, we didn't know that. All that we know is we're standing on the ground, we're looking up, and we can see maybe a couple of white spots where the holes probably are, and we can see the quick draws. And from this information we have to anticipate the climbing moves, anticipate where the cruxes are, and get the route done. First attempt, lead mode without falling. This would be the definition of a successful on-site attempt, in my book at least. Now, with these things, there comes, of course, lots of strategies involved here. I mean, I personally like on-siting a lot because it gives you a little bit of an additional thrill, There's only one chance in your lifetime that you're gonna on-site a route, and if you fail this chance, then the chance never comes back, because you can only one time not know anything about the route. So as simple as that. So there's always this additional thrill involved, and I like that. It's like kind of an all or nothing attitude. And I also like saving up routes, that look very on-site friendly for days when I feel strong, or when I feel fit and stuff, when I know that I'm conditioned, because that it kind of increases the pressure even more on the on-site attempt, but it also makes it much more rewarding kind of when it works out, And on the other hand, it is also very frustrating if it doesn't work out, but yeah, that's another story. However, there are a couple of things that are advantageous, I would say, when it comes to on-siting. And the first thing is, of course, you gotta analyze the route from the ground as properly as possible to you from your position. As you can imagine, with 40 meters, that's kind of hard because you simply cannot see what's up there 40 meters above. You won't see any holds, you won't see even quick draws, depending on the terrain of course, but probably you won't. So it's kind of hard to anticipate that. You've got to get into the flow and simply flow through it if the crux is at 40 meters of height, which is not necessarily always the case. Sometimes you got a crux which is already in the first couple of moves, in the first 10 moves, and if that is the case, then you probably can see it from the ground already. You simply watch how far these white spots are apart and how small or how big they are. Maybe you can also anticipate a couple of clipping positions and stuff like that. So these are the things that are really important in your pre-onsight attempt game, when it comes to increasing your chances. You want to be sure that you want to get the initial sequences at least right from what you can see, and then try to keep up the flow basically. So what I always like to do is I create myself a plan A for what seems to be really obvious when I look up, and I can also already see the crux, for example. I can already anticipate the crux moves. Then I think also about a plan B, because not always plan A works out, as you know. You get to this hold and it feels much worse than you imagined. Then you got to do something else, and you don't have time to think a lot when you're onsighting, and especially when you're in the crux. So you got to have a plan B as well. So as you can see, this onsight attempt went really well. It worked out, and I was kind of happy about it because this is a real classic. It was super to climb this, and let's see how Thorsten does.
So 8 plussen.
Sounds good.
Das müsste ein Schotten sein. Coffee on the crack.
So as you can see, Thorsten's route is much different in style. We've got here kind of an overhanging, bulgy, relatively short route compared to my 40 meter slightly overhanging endurance test piece. And it's basically one hard sequence at the start, then it's a little bit easier in this big crack that you can see here, and then you gotta climb out of this crack again into this big overhang to make a couple of kind of far reaches on some really good holds, or relatively good holds, and then you get to the top. So let's see how it does here. Now, I already talked about how we can increase our chances by standing on the ground, looking up and anticipating the moves, trying to get these moves into our heads. And there's also one climber who does this a lot, Edemondra. I already said in a couple of videos that he has a really good strategy, I think. So there's onsight attempts of him where he stands on the ground, and gets the moves in for an hour or something, and then he lies down and looks only up into the route and anticipates the moves with his hands, so that he's as fast as possible and as precise as possible when it comes to the actual attempt. And this is of course something that can increase your chances immensely. But what can we do when it comes to the climbing itself? Now, I like to something that I like to do is, of course, or something that you have to do actually, is always try to keep analyzing the holds that are coming to you. As you're moving up, new holds appear on your radar, so to say. New holds become visible, and always try to analyze as far as possible. Try to analyze the holds that are already 3 meters above you, if your brain capacity, so to say, can take it. Because imagine cranking down a super tiny edge at the moment because you're in the crux at this given point. Then you won't look up and anticipate the next moves or anything. Then your primary target is not to fall in this given moment. However, when you're in a resting position, for example, or you got a couple of easier moves at the moment and you're moving really fast, then you don't want to climb yourself into a dead end. Okay, so you always want to anticipate, you always want to keep analyzing, look up and analyze the next 3 meters of the route, and then you're gonna see these white spots, and then you can analyze how the sequence could be from your hands, and always try to get a plan B as well, especially if you have the feeling it's going to be a harder sequence. And not only, and this is something that I have the feeling helped me with my on-site game a lot, not only try to analyze the hands, but also try to analyze the feet that are coming up. Now, feet can really break your on-site. They can make or break your on-site, I have the feeling. And it is important that you understand that your feet can not only step a lot of the cases on where your hands have been before, but they very often have separate footholds, and these you can distinguish from the rest of the wall via these little black dots, okay, because the rubber of the shoes actually wears off on these little footholds. Now, if you have side pulls, for example, for your hands, then it's very rare that you're going to use this side pull as a foothold later on, unless it's becoming something like a heel hook or something, okay? So side pulls often become heel hooks or are not used at all. Underclings can be used sometimes as toe hooks, but they are also very rarely used actually when you keep climbing. But it's important to be aware of these things. And of course, normal upper holds, that face upwards can always be used later on as footholds. These are important to kind of automatically save up in your head. Once you climb past them with your hands, try to save them up in your head so that you know, ooh, there was actually a handhold that was quite okay. Maybe I can use this as a foothold later on. So, end of the story, I would say, is do not only analyze the upcoming handholds that are, moving towards you as you're moving up the wall, also try to analyze the upcoming footholds, the tiny little black spots that you see here and there when you're moving with your eyes around the wall, So as we can see here, on-site climbing is kind of a multitasking challenge here. We gotta climb, we gotta execute technique, and at the same time we gotta analyze upcoming sequences, and also something that's very important, upcoming clipping positions. Okay, try to anticipate the upcoming clipping positions. And when it comes to clipping, try to clip always as late as possible. Don't over clip, don't lock off holes unnecessarily to get a super early clip in, because it's not going to give you a lot in terms of safety, and sometimes it can be even detrimental to your safety in general. But of course, you also want to keep in mind that when you have a good hold at the moment, then you want to utilize that one for clipping. Now, when it comes to general climbing style, try to climb as flowy as possible. Try to climb as fast as possible. I don't need to explain that. We can save a lot of energy by climbing fast. And also, especially if you don't have a dangerous situation, try to really climb until you fall. You would be surprised what is still possible even if you're super pumped already, and maybe the next hold is a jug, maybe the next hold is the finishing jug, you never know. So really go for it. These are my tips for now for on-site climbing. It's a lot deeper, this topic, actually, than you would imagine, but yeah, I like it a lot, and maybe I'm gonna talk about it in another upcoming episode as well. These are figs from Thorsten's garden, and that's incredible how sweet and good they are. After a whole day of climbing and basically fasting, taste explosion. Incredible. Look at this color.